The final chapter of Po's adventure as the Dragon Warrior is seen in Kung Fu Panda 4. In the fourth animated film in the Kung Fu Panda franchise, which has gotten largely positive reviews from reviewers, Jack Black reprises his role as the movie's cherished panda. At the end of Kung Fu Panda 4, Po is locked up by Zhen, who steals his staff of knowledge to give to Chameleon. The shape-shifting villain uses it to open the spirit world, calling on Tai Lung and other kung fu masters so she can steal their skills and use them to conquer other cities and regions. Zhen decides to help Po defeat Chameleon. Zhen recruits the Den of Thieves to aid in battle, and they willingly help. With the Den of Thieves distracting Chameleon's army, Zhen and Po are able to best her with the Staff of Knowledge, with Po delivering the final blow after Chameleon transformed and channeled all the kung fu masters at once. Once the staff returns the kung fu master's abilities, they all return to the spirit realm with Chameleon and Tao. Po thereafter announced Zhen as his successor, while he finally became the spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace. After stealing all of the kung fu master's skills, the Chameleon becomes nearly unstoppable. But one thing the villain wasn't betting on was Zhen turning on her and helping Po fight her. Chameleon was too far gone in her obsession with power, and her ego too big to foresee her defeat. The villain truly believed she would be undefeated, but Chameleon ultimately underestimated Po as the Dragon Warrior, who had trained for a long time in Kung Fu. All the skills were stolen by Chameleon, and therefore unearned. Although Po was able to restore the talents of Tai Lung and the other Kung Fu masters, the villains chose to return to the spirit world, because they understood it was the morally correct thing to do. They couldn't reclaim their old glory just because they were taken out of that world. In particular, Tai Lung knew that with Po as their guardian, the Valley of Peace and the Staff of Knowledge were in good hands. The Kung Fu Panda bad guys might have easily taken revenge on Po, but they all understood that their true home was now in the spirit world. Po refused Shifu's offer to become the spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace, because he wanted to continue being the Dragon Warrior indefinitely. Po was hesitant not only because he was afraid of change, though that was a factor as well, but also because he didn't trust himself to impart knowledge. Po didn't want to give up his identity as a Dragon Warrior, because he had come so far in his quest and it was who he was. Being a spiritual leader was something he had never done before, but this was something he knew he was good at. At least, not at the beginning of Kung Fu Panda 4, it would compel him to master new skills with which he wasn't totally comfortable. Po hesitated to adjust to such a significant shift as well. Giving counsel and information to others was not something he had truly expected to do, but he was at ease in his role as the Dragon Warrior. Po, however, misjudged himself. He was not as bad a spiritual leader as he first thought. Most importantly, Po had to discover that change was a positive thing that would help him grow into a better version of himself than he had ever dreamed. Zhen was ready to go back to jail after overcoming Chameleon, but Po sensed something more in her. Declaring Zhen to be the next Dragon Warrior, Po led her to the Jade Castle. Following a journey that put them both to the test, Po was even more certain than before that the fox was deserving of taking on the mantle when Shifu said he would just know who the next Dragon Warrior would be. The second time the title of Dragon Warrior was bestowed upon someone who didn't exactly conform to the traditional ideals of what a warrior should appear or behave like was when Zhen earned it. Zhen was picked for the position because she had to make a significant choice about Chameleon, who took her in and taught her for years despite her evil intentions. Zhen's decision to act morally in such a challenging situation demonstrated her capacity to adapt and adjust in response to new facts. It also demonstrated Zhen's gold heart beneath all of her armor, demonstrating her suitability for such a significant position. Po reveals that the reason for the noticeable absence of the Furious Five is that they are all engaged on separate tasks. A quick montage shows the missions of Tiger, Snake, Crane, Monkey, and Mantis, but not much more is revealed regarding their destinations or the reasons behind their simultaneous and distinct departures. The Furious Five have made a comeback to assist Zhen in becoming the next Dragon Warrior, as seen in the credits. It's probable that director Michael Mitchell felt the characters didn't need to be in the film because Po left the Valley of Peace behind. Po's transformation from Dragon Warrior to mentor to spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace is a major theme in the fourth installment as well. It was hard to highlight the Furious Five in the same way, given how many new characters he meets with throughout the movie. Rather than disregarding the Furious Five entirely, Kung Fu Panda 4 at least explains their absence. By the end, Zhen has taken over as Po's heir and is training to become the next Dragon Warrior. In the meantime, Po at last assumes the position of Valley of Peace's spiritual leader. By now, the two protagonists have grown together and prepared for the next phase of their life. Although it appears like Po's days as Dragon Warrior are over, it also creates the conditions for Kung Fu Panda 5 to go on his new path as a spiritual leader. It might be expanded on who Po will counsel and the specifics of this new function. Regarding Jen, Kung Fu Panda 4 has already shown glimpses of her Dragon Warrior training. However, Kung Fu Panda 5 could fully explore her position. Since Zen's character in Kung Fu Panda 4 assumed Po's duty from the beginning, a follow-up film may focus on her initial adventures as a Dragon Warrior, tracking her ups and downs as she grows more comfortable with the training and responsibilities of the position. Although Kung Fu Panda 5 hasn't been formally announced, Jen's introduction opens up a world of storytelling possibilities. The conclusion of Kung Fu Panda 4 shows the strength that can result from embracing change, with the lesson being that it should not be feared because it is a necessary component of life and personal development. Change frightened both Po and Jen. They were afraid of not living up to expectations, since they had become accustomed to their lives being in a particular way. With Po in particular, this was the case. Their experiences in Kung Fu Panda 4 taught them that in order to advance and evolve, they had to adapt to change, even if it was uncomfortable.